All right, welcome back, everybody. Episode 3.
Welcome.
So today we have a guest of mine. This is the first guest that I'm bringing on, Daniel from For Rent Shoes. He's the owner of the shop, and I guess creator, you can say?
Yeah, curator, buyer, all-around cool guy. He has a lot of really interesting perspective on the process of owning and curating a shop, as well as getting community involved with not only a way to get people connected to the shop, but just experiencing the city as a whole. He has a really interesting perspective on all this stuff. And it's neat that someone from another place, from not a Baltimore native, comes in and embraces the city and is embraced by the city as well as he is. So it's interesting to hear his story.
Definitely. And he gave us a lot of gems on the industry in general, and like a lot of background about Bodega because he's from Boston. Gave us some Adidas background that we didn't know, and just I don't want to give away everything, but it was a lot of cool, interesting gems that he dropped. Yeah, but before we get out of here, we do have a little thing we like to plug every week. Lyft promo code branded BRNDD, get $50 credit for the ride. And also it works for drivers too. So what they're doing right now is they have I believe, $300 credit for riders that sign up. You do have to do a minimum of, I believe, 30 rides, but you will get that credit. Also for drivers, you get like 95% of your commission. You can earn up to like $1,500 a week. So it's really good. And you can get tips from the people that you ride well with, which other services don't allow. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Use Lyft. Lyft is a cool system. They vet each driver. You have to get a driving test, background check. Get out of here. Get out of here. Use it. Don't be a fool, especially if you get $50.
I mean, what else can you do but, use free money? So, but yeah, let's get into it. All right, welcome back, everybody. Episode 3, BRNDD Podcast.
Hello.
It's your host, Donte Cotton.
And Ronald.
And today we have
Harrison Davis from For Rent Shoes.
Yeah, so I've known Harrison for a few years now. One of the first retailers that I entered. So kind of wanted to bring him on and speak about what's going on in the fashion world, speak about, owning the shop, the process of that, and how things have worked out for him owning a shop in Baltimore, because I think he's had some very unique experiences entering the market, especially for the time that he entered it. So without any further ado, who are you? Where are you from?
All right, so my name's Harrison. I'm from Boston. I've been in Baltimore about 4 years now. Spent the first year kind of being a nomad, trying out different careers. Before coming here for 4 years, I did research finance for government healthcare contracts. So I have a background in research finance and a minor in tax law. So I got the business side of it down. I had always been interested in art, but when I moved to Baltimore, I knew I wanted to do something where I could live off of art. It's a much cheaper city than Boston, and you have more opportunity in that facet. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and just happened to be, after about a year of being here, I was really tired of having to go to DC on the weekends or back up to New York or fly to Miami because it's really cheap from here.
Right.
To go shopping and get that big city experience, because it's just, there's not a central shopping district to Baltimore. There's a couple of malls here and there, but they're either half filled or it's all really generic. Yeah. And there wasn't that place to get something that made you feel like an individual. So then I went through the process of, I had never worked in retail. I had only ever worked in food service.
Okay.
Like for 2 summers when I was younger, and then went straight into accounting. So I needed to get that experience so I could learn how to run a store. So I worked at City Sports for 6 months and then worked on my business plan during that. Opened For Rent 3 years ago. October 18th will be our 3rd anniversary of being open to the public.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So how did you come up with the name For Rent? Because that's pretty cool.
So that's something that still confuses people to this day, which is awesome. So pushing now at the 3-year anniversary, redesigned our logo, so it's FRS now.
Right.
And we're leading with like FRS when we talk to people. Boston and New York have a lot of sneaker culture, and so a lot of it's also hidden because they have enough consumers there that you can have speakeasy style stores where you have to be in the know to really know where they are, know what door to go through, what alley to be in. So I wanted to bring that big city feel to Baltimore, but also in a way that Baltimore would be able to accept it. This is not a city where you're going to walk into a building that you can't see into. You know, it's just no one feels comfortable doing that in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So it was like I spent, a couple weekends driving around like, what is so plentiful here that's not going to stick out with all the gentrification and all the bankruptcy side by side in every neighborhood. You have a lot of for rent, a lot of for sale. There's signage everywhere, so you almost don't even look anymore. So I wanted a big for rent sign in the window so people would look past it, but people in the know would still be in that culture where they would be able to find us.
Gotcha. That's really cool. When I went to Boston, I went to Bodega.
Yes.
And that's
an amazing shop.
Life-changing.
I spent 3 days a week there for about 3 years. I lived right down the block, and Oliver, one of the owners, helped me with my business plan. That was one of the first phone calls I made.
That's incredible.
It was like, how does this really start? If you're going to give me the honest approach, let's have this conversation.
Yeah.
If you're just going to be like, follow your dreams, I don't want to have it. And he really broke down a couple of things about accounts to me that really helped me segment myself and really figure out what I wanted to do in our market.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as picking a location as well, how did you end up picking this spot?
So both my parents were in the Navy, so I never lived anywhere longer than 28 months. So I moved constantly. So you start to get very perceptive to your surroundings, figure out how to relate to people, interact with people, kind of create that common barrier. It was really easy after being in Baltimore for, 8 months when I started writing my business plan to figure out what neighborhoods were owned by who frequented what neighborhoods. Yeah. I needed to find one that wasn't owned by any gangs. There's no particular Mount Vernon drug lord. There's no color in Mount Vernon.
Right.
There's nothing specific to it that makes it dangerous or protected or anything like that. You can walk to it, you can bike, you can drive. And it's also not the most affluent area, but not the poorest. Because that's another misconception that people have. It's like, Harbor East is safe, so you should want to be there. Federal Hill is safe. They're also really white, very elitist, and full of people that don't live in Baltimore and don't experience the city.
Right.
So those neighborhoods can be just as uncomfortable for people as, the west side, the east side, your worst blocks. So I wanted a place where everyone could feel comfortable, no matter where you were from in the city. So
I think that was a good fit. Because you got the, Washington Monument up the street, and you have the Walters Art Museum right there. There's a few other boutiques around, and, there's an art gallery around the corner as well. So it's a very eclectic space.
Yeah, and if people weren't already stopping in Mount Vernon, they were at least driving through it to get from A to B.
Yeah.
So they were aware of the general vicinity.
So one of the things that makes the store really unique is the selection of shoes, to a lot of people that are mainstream buyers, obscure brands, right? Yeah. Which makes it really cool because you can come in and get a shoe that you can't pick up in the mall. How did you make your selection? Because it's a big selection of really cool. There's a lot of choices. and I've been to some shops that maybe 15 years ago would just have a stockpile of creative recreation stuff, and that was it. But this shop has a ton of things. How did you A, select things, and B, get such a cool selection? How'd you do the research?
For me, it was about creating my closet and starting the store off that way. So in my house, we literally, every time we move, we have to get an extra bedroom for my shoes. So that's it's a true passion that I have, and I wanted to bring that eclectiveness to Baltimore.
Oh, cool.
And a big thing for me was when I first wrote the business plan, and now the bigger we're getting, the harder it is for us to do. But when I first wrote the business plan was I wanted to carry only things that weren't available within 100 miles of Baltimore. Ooh. So that's going to take out Philly and DC. Because if you think about it, like in Manhattan, how many amazing sneaker stores do you have?
Right.
What they do is they pick, within a 20 block radius, no one can sell that. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's millions of consumers in New York.
Wow.
So I wanted to do that same thing, and you have to spread out here. So that's a 100-mile radius for me to do that same thing that they're doing in Manhattan. Wow. It's really getting exclusives and then limiting it to 24 pairs or less for everything. So that way, no matter what it was, So our price point right now is between 60 and 400. So no matter which level of spending you're at, you're still exclusive at the end of the day. Was my thing. Most of the research was through traveling. I lived in Europe for a little over a year when I was in high school, or when I was in college. And so I learned a lot of the brands that way. Cool. And there's a lot different kinds of influences abroad. Here you pretty much have your Nike or your Adidas, but you're not really into the fashion lines of them. You're into the sports oriented shoes. You know, it's your favorite athlete. Where over there, it's more of musicians, and like the hip hop relationship is closer to fashion in Europe, I find.
Okay.
So I wanted to, you know, kind of bring that, and we have a lot of music events in the store to like bring that culture, and you can't do that with people like Nike that have forced ad campaigns.
Yeah.
So I wanted to keep that as much out of the store as possible in the beginning. And then I also wanted to make sure that my business plan was impressive enough that we started, when we first opened, we had 3 USA exclusive brands. So we were the only store in the country that were allowed to carry them. One of them was Yours out of New Zealand, and they only made 250 pairs of each shoe in the whole world, like each colorway.
Wow. And
so we got 8 of each of those, you know. And then the other one was Criminal Damage out of London. Okay. They're a huge brand overseas, and they own like Boy London, Criminal Damage. They own a bunch of things. It's a manufacturer.
Gotcha.
And then they own a bunch of different labels, but they had started making shoes, and no one else in the US had access to the shoes. And what was the third one? Regardless, we did that, and then I had a huge collection of gourmet, which no one really knew about in Baltimore at that point. Yeah. And so I was like, you know, I have to sell that. So I guess I had a more European, more West Coast style.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so a lot of the East Coast didn't have access to that. And then this is one of the biggest sneaker markets in the country. It's usually number 2 or number 3, the DMV. And most people don't recognize that, but there's a reason that Shoe City and DTLR are headquartered a mile away from my store. You know? It's a big market.
Right. That's incredible.
Yeah. So even speaking about the store on another front, you've done a lot of changes internally as far as the look, the layout, the feel, how people flow through the store. Speak about how you decided to make those changes over the years.
Sure, yeah. So we always want to be comfortable. A big thing about our store is the average customer spends about 37 minutes in there, which might not seem like a lot, but retail, your average is between 7 and 11 for a big box retailer. So customers are choosing to spend 3 to 6 times the amount of time in our store per visit as they are at a big box retailer. So they have to be interested every time they walk in. They can't expect anything, or they're going to start to spend less and less time. They also need to be comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, so in the winter, we usually have plush couches. You know, in the summer, we'll have picnic tables. You know, like make it like you're outside. Yeah. It flows with the city as the city moves. And it was really important for me to start with the idea of my closet and bring my knowledge, but also let Baltimore tell me what they wanted, and then give it to them in, you know, the top tier way that I could. Not do it at the quote unquote Baltimore level that people tend to do things at, which they think is less than New York or less than Atlanta. Yeah. You know, give them that true high-end experience. And that's why, so like we have 3 permanent murals in the store right now. Yeah. Each one has gone up about 8 months to a year apart, because it really has to be a piece of art that's going to stand the test of time. And also has to be done by a local artist. I refuse to fly someone in to do it just because they have the style that I'm looking for. Right. You know, because that's not Baltimore. You know, it has to be someone from our block that is making a difference in the community. You know, so that's been the most important thing, is really making it a community center, and then sell things.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where you and I connected at, and that's where I'm starting to focus more on my brand, is to speak to Baltimore and speak from Baltimore more. Recently did a shoot that was on North Avenue, right, where the kind of the epicenter of the riots were. And like a lot of the installations that you have, well, one of them, it speaks to it, and then you also have an installation from the book Buck from MK Asante, and you've put a lot of different things in your space, and you've got a lot of artists in, and then speaking on that front to having, you know, more of an open field, so you even opened the upstairs space to it and made that, a women's section?
Yeah, so we always built a women's floor. It officially opened in June, so it's starting to get bigger. It took us a long time to find women's wear that was appropriate for the space, because most men's brands, whatever their women line is either really cheap and tacky, like what you would see in Rainbow, like it's very slutty, or it's just smaller versions of what the men are wearing. Right. But women's streetwear is an actual thing.
It is.
As much as the Fenty movement is a little bit crazy and doesn't look good on a lot of people. It's pushed a lot of brands to consider actually having a real women's offering.
Yeah.
So that's been really helpful. And like yesterday, we just did a women's only release event.
Wow.
Because it was really bothering me watching any men's sneaker that comes out. You have men lined up around the block.
Right.
They know they're getting fed while they're in line. You know, you're going to get a beer, you're going to get a gift with purchase. You know, you wait 6 hours, you're doing all this.
Yeah.
And then even for arguably the biggest women release in the last like 4 years, which is Fenty, it was literally, okay, it's in store today, the door's open, and then there's like really attractive female models wearing the clothes, which is more for the men to look at.
Yeah, right.
Like, you know, it's like, so I wanted to do something that wasn't about being sexy for other people, like do something where it's just women and all small business entrepreneurs. So all women that either were leaders in their career field or own their own businesses. So for the first 2 hours, it was just a networking event for them. No men were allowed in, like really let their hair down, actually be women and collaborate.
Yeah.
And then we let the general public in to buy the rest of the collection. But, you know, really offering them a chance to really get to know each other without being catty, without having to impress someone's boyfriend that's there, without having to, you know, be the strong female on a team full of men.
Right.
There's women in every career field, and if they work together and exclusively without putting other people in it, they actually are a lot stronger. And so kind of letting them realize that.
Yeah, and that's something that I also kind of want to focus on more, and hopefully at some point find an actual female designer to come in and do some stuff, because there are so many females that are into streetwear, and what a lot of times they do, they just end up wearing men's stuff on the smaller size. So they'll get a small or extra small if it's made in it, and that's just what they have. They don't have anything that's actually a women's piece. So so far I've put out 2 different things. I've done like a sweatshirt for women specifically, and I've also done a t-shirt for women, but that's definitely something I want to do more of.
Feminine things that aren't pink.
Yeah,
right. Like it's you can just have a feminine design. But
yeah, because one of the sweatshirts that you stocked, the black one.
Yeah,
it had some you know pink accents,
the roses
but
and stuff, but it was still very like collegiate and very, it made sense. They loved it.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing a theme. It's kind of the interpersonal skills that also kind of go into what you do. Kind of noticing what people think, listening to people. You said some of that came from traveling, but some of it is just. It seems okay. So I'll give you an example. I've been in For Rent a couple times, and every time I come in, I have really good conversations with you or other people that work there, and you know, there's no. You may not know who someone is, and it's just what that tells me is that you pay close attention to just making people feel comfortable in the space, because it's. Clothing is a very sensitive thing. You know, you're talking about wearing something, you know, but you're their guide. So how important was it to creating that sort of environment, that comfort, the interpersonal skills? And when did you learn that was an important part of the process?
I think that I didn't know I was doing that for the first couple months until people started to bring it up to us. I've always been a really charity-minded person. So like even the federal stuff I was doing for the government was all at hospital networks that were charity owned. And like that was too big. Corporate charity isn't real thing to me, like doesn't have a heart. So then I tried to do grassroots charity, but there's no money in that. And then so when I fell into this career, it like you said, clothes are really personal. And for me, I hate when you go into like, say you're in Foot Locker and you walk in and they're like, what are you looking for? We're like, well, I'm a size 10, I want a black shoe. They just throw something at you, and if that's not what you want, they don't really care.
Yeah.
You know, then there's like, okay, fine, you find what you want. You know? And like for me, nothing, like we're not at Kmart, we're not at Walmart. People don't need a single thing that we sell.
Right.
So if you're in there, you have to have an emotional attachment to what you're getting, and it has to be the right fit for where you're going, what you're doing. Generally, we talk to people about, you know, like, what event are you going to? What impact do you want to make? Are you buying this for right now? Like, I see that it's a lot like the style that you're already wearing. Are you looking to go in a different direction? Or you just want all black? Is that like what you stick to? Or like, would you like an inflection of something that's actually cut and sew? Maybe that has like white in it. You can start to get them into the direction that they always wanted to go but weren't comfortable.
Cool.
Because it's hard for people to buy higher end things that they aren't confident with, especially if they haven't heard of the brand before and not having that understanding. And then they'll end up getting frustrated and then just go to the mall and buy something from Nike because people understand it.
Yeah.
And they don't want to have to answer questions about something that they're wearing that they don't understand.
Right.
So it's
and then aren't a lot of spaces for you to get those cut and sew pieces from in Baltimore right now anyway. So coming to your spot and actually learning about those garments is very important for people.
Yeah, and I think just kind of teaching people that it can sometimes actually be cheaper than the printed thing that you're buying in the mall. Yeah. Like, quality and price don't always go hand in hand once you have brand recognition.
Yeah.
Which is what Jordan's facing this year, why they're losing a lot of sales, right? Is they raised all their prices, the quality didn't go up. People are starting to realize that the shoes they've had in their closet, the soles are coming off now after 15 years.
Yeah.
So people are starting to pay more attention to the quality. So everything we sell has to have that. The
quality, yeah.
What was the process of picking brands to go into your shop as far as like the clothing in?
Clothing is difficult for me because I always wanted to own a sneaker store, and then the clothing was secondary.
Okay.
But I quickly also realized, like you said, like there's not a lot of options here, especially for men.
Mm-hmm.
So the clothing became really, really important to the shop. So, we go to shows in Miami, Vegas, New York. Should hopefully be going to Berlin next year.
Okay.
To go to a show. Agenda from Long Beach actually flew out to the store last week, and they're going to possibly fly us out to Long Beach because they want us to pick up some of the West Coast brands that aren't getting distributed already on the East Coast.
Okay.
So there's an interesting line between what I want, what boundary I can push, because Baltimore is about 3 seasons behind your bigger East Coast cities. So like New York and Miami adopt things a lot quicker. So Baltimore's behind. So how do you push forward but give them something they haven't already seen? But something they're still willing to purchase, and figuring out that line, and then also having new brands constantly contact us and be like, obviously they want to be in our shop because it's getting good recognition, but for me, having to decide who like quote unquote like deserves to be filling that space is really difficult.
Yeah. So I've been in there a few times when people have approached you or tried to pitch their line to you, and I think the biggest thing is one, being genuine about what you're doing and having like a clear direction of what you want to present, especially if you're from here, present to the city, because I think that's very important. And when they come to you, you'll ask them, oh well, I see you have something in here from London, or you have the name London, or like the picture of the city in this shirt. Have you been there, or what's the influence? And they kind of like, well, it's kind of just popular. We wanted to choose it. Like,
why did you use that font? If it's because Kanye did it, that's not the right reason.
Right.
Like, this isn't the industry to be in for money. The money comes if you're passionate and talented enough and people recognize it. But if you started out just looking for money, you're never going to get to the point that you're happy. Yeah. So that's always people's biggest downfall, I think.
So you were talking about Baltimore not having a bunch of shops, and I can think of like 6 or 7 years ago there were 4 or 5 more shops, and
sad.
You're adapting to the change in a way that I think is pretty amazing. How have you stayed open? Because let's be honest, like a lot of shops don't stay open for longer than a year.
Yeah.
You've been, was it 3 years at this point?
3 years, yeah.
3 years. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Especially for a shop in Baltimore, in a place where people kind of dress, very plainly, to be completely
almost
honest.
like uniform.
No craziness, no colorful or anything. How have you endured? How you survived?
There's a lot to it. I think we did a really good job for the first 2 years, and my business plan was to do absolutely no paid marketing.
Oh, wow.
And we stuck to that. And so we had to be really ingenuitive about how we were going to get people in the door, which I think was, had we started out just being like, oh, we're going to run an ad campaign and see how it goes, we definitely would have folded by now. But because we decided the best way to do it was throw the most diverse group of events that the city has ever seen and do it through the city rather than to the city.
Right.
I didn't want to go on radio and be like, hey, I have this new store, because that's like a flash in the pan. Yeah. I wanted to go out to all the open mics in the city, find the best poets, find the best artists, and then be like, look, I have this store. It's going to be your venue. You're going to do a one-night only concert. Invite your crowd, because a lot of artists can't afford to perform.
Yeah.
Because they can't pay for the stage time.
Right.
They can't pay pay up front to cover the tickets.
Yeah.
You know, and people don't realize that there's a cost to performing for the artist. They don't get paid until the back end after the show.
Yeah.
So giving them a venue where they could do that and have a private party, or bigger artists that want to have a private listening event. The first 2.5 years we did 65 events in the store.
Wow.
Just like several a month.
Yeah.
So that is a really unique way of getting the word out about a business. And then so the city, like, we're part of the city now. We're not in the city, like, we're a part of it. We're
absolutely.
living and breathing with it. And I think that was really important for us to just always break even with our true customers. And they did. They've held our hand through everything. Like, we were broken into during the riots that really killed us last summer. This summer, the block that we're on collapsed April 23rd. It's still not open. It's not going to open until November. So that killed traffic.
Yeah.
So the city has kept us alive because
Wow.
we respected the city, and now they're respecting us. And so I think that was a big part of it. Now we've grown every year, and going in, and we have a huge online presence now, which is nice. But going into the third year now, we're starting to do the paid advertising because we have that authenticity in the city. You know, we have the people that can vouch for us, and we have people in every friend group. Now it's about going after, you know, the people that Amazon and Under Armour are bringing in from those bigger cities that are looking for this experience because it's what they're used to at home. You know, just letting them know that it's available for them is the next step.
Cool. Wow. It's an amazing plan.
From those stores that, you know, Ron brought up, you know, Gente, PetX, a lot of them were kind of staples as far as streetwear in Baltimore. Did you learn anything from those brands?
I learned from Gente that most people thought that they went out of business, which blew my mind because that was the last piece of research I did before opening our store, was figuring out what happened. Because, you know, that's a top 50 sneaker store. They don't disappear.
Yeah.
The fact that people here just thought that it went out of business showed that they didn't look too deep into it. Like, he moved. He has another shop in LA.
Yeah.
He still owns the space that Gente was in. Like, still paying rent on it. You know, so it's I was like, okay, so he really just picked up and moved his business, and he wanted a personal feel to his business. So I was like, so there is a pocket that's been waiting to be filled there, you know. And then really just running a store. I think the other stores had a hard time keeping up with the internet generation.
Right.
All of our shoppers, like we were just talking about how you can get Yeezys and Jordans on Walmart right now. Like, all of our shoppers will Google the brand while they're standing in the store, and we welcome them to do so because the price in our store is the same exact price as the manufacturer. We don't upcharge.
Yeah.
You know, we don't do weird, like, back alley deals. We have accounts with everyone that's in our store. So I think a lot of stores here were kind of behind the times in that they were buying wholesale from second parties. You know, they didn't have accounts with the brands. They weren't getting the releases the day they came out.
Right.
You know, they were very just behind in that internet generation phase. And so I think us being able to keep up with that has been really, really helpful.
Okay.
Just being really on time with everything and treating it like a real store. You know, treating Baltimore like a real city. Like, you know, if something's been here for 6 weeks, then it moves on sale, and then it moves on clearance, and you got to keep it rolling like that so you can keep having space to expand.
Yeah.
And then with that, kind of, I think what's important with doing those things, relationships with the brands themselves. Have you built any, like, relationships with the brands that you've been carrying over the years?
100%. I think that is the only way to run a small business. So I went after a very specific niche in the streetwear industry. I didn't want to be a local store. I wanted to be an image boutique. And we're the first, to my knowledge, pretty much one of the first image boutiques to really open and stay open since the late 90s. Because there was a huge boom in the early 2000s of people getting a bunch of accounts because streetwear was really on the rise. Sneaker sales were really high. And like a bunch of young people just got accounts and all their stores failed. So then a lot of the brands actually froze opening accounts. Like Adidas hasn't opened a new account in almost 3 years.
Wow.
As a company. They're expanding current accounts. So like if you open new stores and that kind of stuff, but they haven't opened a new account.
Wow.
You know, things like that. So for me, I want to be an image boutique, which means we have the ability to launch new brands and the ability to get a brand's message out to a larger audience than they have. So brands will like approach us. We have a lot of the same accounts as Kith. You know, and we're a very small store. And so to have that means that we have the respect of the brands because of what we're doing on our end with social media, how we treat their product when it comes in, doing our own photo shoots, telling a story with their product that no one else is telling. And because we're doing things a Baltimore way and actually featuring Baltimore artists, sponsoring Baltimore artists when they're on stage, featuring kids from Baltimore in our photo shoots, it looks very different than New York. It looks very different than Miami.
Right.
It's a very authentic feel. So the brands really like that. And we'll have, when reps come down, they'll spend the night at our house. I'm like, don't stay in a hotel, I have a house. Stay here. Like, we have a very close relationship with all of them.
Okay.
So I think that's the key.
Right.
For sure.
How would you say that you've grown as a buyer in the past 3 years? It's
hard. I've become less selfish.
Oh, okay.
I think that was, I really believed in the beginning that I needed to buy like what I liked, because I really like a certain level of exclusivity and, craziness that the average person isn't going to wear, like patterns and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I kind of had to humble my decision making a little bit, and buy for a more average consumer was really, really difficult for me.
Gotcha.
So to be able to provide someone that wears gray and black 200 days a year with a pair of sneakers that matches their outfit,
right,
was difficult for me. And to still have it hold true to our exclusivity rules and just to be special and have a story behind it, that was really difficult. And so I've matured in that way, as well as matured in, I'm gonna be honest, I really hated Baltimore style when I first opened the store. It's like, this is the city of onesies. Like, if it's on a mannequin, people buy it, and they love matching top, matching hat, matching bottom. And the shoe can have all 3 colors in it.
It's perfect.
It's amazing.
It's so many people
that
do
throw like $700 at me because it's a head to toe.
They don't have to think about it.
I really wanted everyone to do PC things, so I was very against that. So I've started to find ways to infuse cut and sew European labels into that one piece, so you're not wearing the tracksuit from the 80s. Now you're wearing something that's tailored and fitted and looks like it was made for you, but it is also a one piece. It did come together, but it really, and getting people outside their comfort zone, put the yellow shoe with the black outfit. And that's part of getting people to stay longer and having those authentic conversations with them. Like, don't wear that because you think the 7 other people are wearing that to a day party. And we'll be honest, that shoe's already been bought for that party because we know where people are going. Right. So we'll help people stand out and make a choice that they wouldn't normally make because they're like, oh, someone's wearing that. Like, I need to one up them and I need to wear this.
Gotcha.
Rather than just you showing up to the party and 8 of you wearing the same thing.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's been a learning. Every day's a learning process.
And what have you learned going to the different trade shows that you go to? And how do you pick the brands when going to those? Because I've been to a few and it's a lot to take in.
It's overwhelming. My first one 3.5 years ago, I called my husband right after and I was crying. I was in it for half an hour. I went to the one in New York, was my first show. I went by myself, naively being like, I'm just going to walk in, and it is so overwhelming. And when you're a new store, and really you can be considered a new store for 10 years in the industry. It depends your growth. It depends who you've been able to reach. We just got really lucky, and we're able to have stylists pull for the Soul Train Awards and have NFL players and that kind of stuff in the first 6 months. It was just really intrinsic and happened. So we went very quickly from being a new store to being seasoned. But it's a difficult process, and now we're on the other side where brands are pitching themselves to us. I don't think people understand that. People think oh, you have a store, anyone would want to be in it. No, when you're a young store, you have to prove to them why they would want your brand attached to you. What are you going to do for their brand? They don't want you to go out of business and tarnish their brand. Because if you have a store that goes out of business and they're selling you, that means that you weren't selling enough money for them to stay in business.
Right.
Which means your brand's not good enough.
Right.
So they really have to be careful what stores they're getting into. And so now we're on that other side where people are pitching us and we have too many brands to carry. So it's a very different, and it happened really, really quickly for us. And I've been in the store the whole time, so I haven't had a chance to step out and really get my handle on that.
Okay.
Right. So during this process, what keeps you centered? Because it seems like you're managing events, lines, the management of the store itself, employees. How do you stay balanced? What keeps you centered?
I had to move out of downtown. I've always lived in downtown, but I needed a place to be quiet. The house, so we moved to Reservoir Hill. That's one of the nice things about Baltimore is I can be a mile away and it'd be a completely different world.
Yeah, it makes all the difference in the world.
Live across the street from a church, it's very quiet. And I need that, and because it is you don't stop working. And like we also have an incredible online store that's in completely separate business.
Right.
And so you are constantly working. And for me, I hire people that keep me interested. So none of our employees are retail associates. Like they all own their own brands or are in the industry in some facet. And so it's a give and take because we're a small store, so we can't pay as much as like a big corporation. But you are getting the contacts out of it and, you know, true industry connections that you wouldn't get at those stores. So everyone has an integral part to the store, but then that also means everyone has kind of a due date of when they're going to leave the store. They have something that they're very specifically there to learn.
Right.
So that keeps that portion of it really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Helping their careers, because then if I can push them, then they're going to push my store.
Yeah.
You know, and then I can alleviate some of that work on me by doing something interesting for them.
Right.
And they can focus on the store.
Seems like that would have like a kind of an achy feel to it sometimes, because you meet somebody that's incredible, that's an incredible employee that contributes a lot, but they could possibly leave because they're so talented. That must feel kind of...
It's tough, but I just think if I was around people that their only ambition was to be in small retail forever, they would see no point in growing the store, because as long as the store is open, they're good.
Yeah.
You know? So I need people that are really ambitious because they want to use me as their calling card for their resume.
Right.
Because I do have these direct lines to really important, you know, just vendors. And hopefully then in 4 or 5 years, I'll be able to use their connection. Be like, oh, I know you're working on this project. Make sure we get that collaboration. You know, so it will come full circle because we're not going to close. So
that's really
it'll
cool.
work itself out.
Right.
And then I'm their first mentor.
They can shout you out in the magazine.
Yes.
Real quick, cool fact, like when you first opened up, I remember you doing like custom shoes. How'd that whole thing come about?
So I had been doing, that was my creative outlet when I was in finance. For like 6 or 7 years, I've been painting shoes, and then I was doing it in the beginning of the store. Baltimore has a very different idea of what custom shoes are, as opposed to what I was doing. I was hand painting shoes. I wasn't airbrushing.
Right.
In the mall with
They love airbrush.
Yes. Yeah, I wasn't doing that.
Put my homeboy's funeral picture on there. There's a lot of that.
I wasn't doing that. I was doing hand painted like pieces of art. And I think the last one of those that I actually did was I done an event with Michael Owen, who does the Baltimore Love Project. Him and I painted, what was the first athlete that Under Armour did?
Not Cam. It wasn't Cam.
It was like a netted shoe, but it was a basketball shoe.
Yeah.
I know exactly the shoe that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name now.
Brain fart. But I know
So we had done an event with Under Armour, and him and I both painted pairs of shoes side by side live, and then auctioned them off. And then that was like, I think, the last pair of custom shoes that I did.
That's incredible, man.
It was super,
So if somebody out there is looking for a good collectible piece from the store, that's something you should go out and find.
Yes, it was like a purple metallic shoe, and I painted some rendition of a camo Maryland flag on there.
Wow.
Yeah, so like each piece of the camo was a different section of the flag.
Mm.
It was a nice piece.
If you have any pictures, we love to share it with people.
Sanjay, send them in.
Do you have any like dream collaborations? If you were to collaborate with a shoe company, which one would you want to have like a exclusive For Rent shoe? If you could do it.
So hard because I know the business behind collaborations and how expensive they are for the small stores, and how much people actually lose money.
Jeez.
So I think that's hard, and for me, my sole focus is on having this store be a piece of like Baltimore iconography, going down history and being really successful.
Absolutely.
It's not that I don't have dreams of having my own line, and I at this point know how to start my own line. It just is a completely different business that I would have to walk away from the store and let the store run itself, which, given the unpredictability of Baltimore, like the riots, the street collapse, all that kind of stuff, is not a possibility right now. But I mean, like, Adidas is the only brand I have tattooed on my body, so I would say it has to be them, but it would have to be one of their offshoots, like a Pharrell, Jeremy Scott, like something with one of them.
Okay,
would be the way to go.
Yeah.
Or if Gourmet comes back.
Yeah, I really like Gourmet.
Yes, they were beautiful, and they fought over stupid things.
Yeah, that's what kind of spurred Buscemi shoes.
Unfortunate, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very important. So you mentioned the riots, a couple times. How did that affect you guys and affect your business? And have you had any other, incidents that you've kind of had to learn the hard way from?
I think it affected our business most just morally in our customer base. Going down Pennsylvania Avenue a couple days after and like walking with everyone, we had people coming out of the projects and stuff just being like, hey, you're that shoe guy, are you okay? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, everyone knows us.
Right.
Those are our people. I don't look like them. I don't have the same life as them, but those are like, I understood why everything was happening.
Absolutely.
And so we were part of the community. So it was that same, while the store was broken into, the community members also spent the night in the store to make sure it wasn't like completely terrorized.
Right.
I was in Atlanta at the time.
Okay.
So it was just like, whatever happens. And we happily broken into, and then happened to also have the community save the store at the same moment. So I think it was important to me to reopen as quickly as possible, because like for me it's just important. And like as the store's grown, people are always like, aren't you gonna get into a location that's bigger? Because right now we're in a row house. And I won't do that in the city. It's important for me to show the kids here that you can be successful and stick with your vision and not sell out and really do things the right way. Because it's important for a lot of people. There's not a lot of that in Baltimore. It's let me make money until I can go to New York. Let me make money until I can go to Atlanta and like live the dream. So I want to stay the way it is, where it is.
And I commend you for that, because I think you could have easily just closed up shop and moved somewhere else and just be like, forget.
Yeah.
It's easy to give up. You know what I mean? And it's the hardest thing in the world to kind of muster up enough courage to kind of stick to what you wanted to do. And I think that's incredible.
Yeah, it's been the absolute wrong message for the city.
And everything isn't even smoothed over yet. It's still kind of a little tumultuous going on in the city right now. So it's definitely something to be mindful of.
I live near the housing projects in Fells. A lot of people don't know there's housing projects in Fells. So when the riots happened, the guys came around the corner and basically looted on my block. And I had to leave. Like, it was getting to a point where they were just breaking into everything. Yeah. But I get why people were upset. But, I'm glad that we're at a point now where tensions don't feel quite as high as they were before.
Yeah, there's a realization that people need to rely more on each other. Stop asking the local government for a handout, because clearly there's not going to be a coming together between the people and the government at this point. So
and it takes some people working together, and we might not look the same, we might not sound the same. That doesn't matter. A lot of it is just people coming together and
coming together more than just memorial barbecues. It's coming together before the memorial is the issue.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot more of that in the city now than there was 2 years ago.
Definitely, I agree, man. I'm glad that you stuck around. It's
interesting every day.
Anything else that you've kind of been able to hang your hat on as far as like accomplishments or accolades that you've gotten over the time you've been open?
I don't know. I'm a very harsh critic. Being an AV child, I feel like you don't like harbor the good things that happened. Okay. You just focus on like, okay, what's next? You're like, great, I know I accomplished that. Let's keep moving. So it's like, not that the awards and things don't mean anything. They are great and they're amazing. And it's wonderful to hang in our window, and it makes people feel more comfortable with shopping at the store. Gets the word out, but until the day that I have, my goal is to have like 3 stores.
Okay, cool.
Like one on the West Coast, primarily Seattle, and then probably one in Houston.
Why those cities?
They're similar to Baltimore. A lot of people don't think that about Seattle because it already is very wealthy. But in the way that a lot of young people are moving there, and there hasn't been a fashion boom yet, I did think about the fact that it's not like Under Armour didn't just pop up here overnight. Amazon didn't pop up. PayPal didn't pop up. Like, I knew those companies had big plans, and so built that into the business plan. There's going to be a lot of young money coming here, very educated money. Right. Become part of the city, and then educated people you can just advertise to. So once you're a part of the like fabric of the society, then you can reach them. And so going into those cities before their fashion booms happen that'd be the goal. Because I just want authentic places that people who need to touch things can go get them. But most of shopping is happening online now. So making sure that you can transfer that in-store atmosphere to an online is the next frontier for us. That's really difficult, is getting people to understand the music and the culture and the conversations that happen in the store in an online facet.
Cool.
I think you're doing some cool techniques to actually fuse the two as far as, you know, your social media and how you approach that. Can you speak on what you do as far as your social media to include that in-store feel?
Sure. Yeah, we just did. This blew my mind because it took me a while. We just did a photo campaign for like the new Puma fall line because we got the new McQueen collaboration, and I didn't want to just do the stereotypical, okay, you have a $230 high-end designer shoe, let's put it on a runway model. Yeah. Like we had like 5 models that were all artists or designers, and they're young kids here from Baltimore, you know, so, and that's kind of like shocking. The industry is like showing 5 black kids in high-end streetwear. It's never seen anywhere. And like it's so weird to me because it's always marketed to the urban youth, and they'll just like, you know, put a bunch of little white skinny models in an advertisement and then put a hip hop beat behind it, you know. And like what blew my mind is I was looking for a title for the campaign, and we decided on like Baltimore excellence. The hashtag had literally never been used. Like, how long has social media been around? Baltimore was one of the first cities in this country, and no one has been like... Right. The amount of negative hashtags with the word Baltimore in it are astounding. You know, so
I can't even imagine.
To find, like, such a readily available hashtag that no one had used blew my mind. So we're trying to use that kind of as the store's hashtag now, just to really get out there, like a really positive Baltimore message.
Yeah.
We have a lot of higher end artist contacts that do shop with us, but we're choosing to sponsor the local artists, like the underground, like TT. We have sponsored part of her video. We're getting her sneakers for a tour. We hooked her up with Supra last year, so they gave her and her dancers all sneakers. Wow. We're about to on Tuesday we're finalizing some paperwork with Jess Hilarious. We're going to sponsor her stuff. So really, really local artists, you know, on their rise to fame, help them out in areas where I don't think they should have to spend money. You know, they should be able to put that towards their production value. Right. You know, let us give you some clothes. And then they really genuinely like it. And then everyone like the Drew Hills and Total and all those people that pull from us, like they pay full price because
they can.
Yeah. They don't need our help. Yeah. I would love their help, but I want their help because they respect us, not because we're paying them to say it.
Gotcha.
You know?
When it's all said and done, what's the message that you want For Rent to convey to the general public?
It's just that message of individuality, making your own choice. We're kind of forcing people to make their own choice because everything is so limited by the time that you get into the store because you saw someone wearing something. Yeah. That item's gone. So now you have to choose something different. But, you know, just really getting people to really dress themselves and care about. Sometimes it's okay to be vain and care about your outside appearance, and it will change the way you feel inside. It will change the way people feel about you. So just being authentic.
Cool.
Yeah. So what's coming up next? Like, what's going on with the store? What's going on with you?
Everyone keeps asking what we're doing for our 3rd anniversary. We're working. We'll probably do a thank you sale to everyone that shopped with us, but we're not slowing down any facet. I don't know, just looking forward to so the second week of January we always shut down for a week so that all of us can take a break. Cool. And that's when I get to really travel. So I'm excited to figure out where I'm going for that. That's the next excitement. But yeah, just keep building, growing. I'm really looking for someone in South Dakota to purchase something from our website. So we've sold to 24 countries and 49 states.
That's the last one.
Please buy something in South Dakota.
South Dakota, get on the street.
I'm going to bust someone out there just so they can order something.
Wow.
I know when there was streetwear. Every other state we've covered. So I think once we can knock off all 50 states, I think that'll be... Wow. I'll take the team out for that one. That'll be an exciting thing for me.
Please buy something.
Yeah, so also what we do is towards the end, we kind of ask our guests some of their favorite things. Okay. So you just talked about traveling. What's your favorite destination?
London.
Why London?
It is just the most culturally fascinating and fashion-oriented place ever. I think any city that still has an active... Well, any country that still has like an active monarchy is fascinating to me. And the fact that you have like the king and the queen and the family just living right downtown in their palace. So you have all these stately like Burberry trench coats everywhere, but then they have a huge grunge culture and also a huge hip hop scene. And just because it is a more affluent city and they have access to a lot of things. There's a lot of banking centers, a lot of fashion centers. The fashion is unparalleled. And then because they do speak English, it's easy for me to fly in and fly out. I don't have to like prepare myself for the trip, you know, so it's a little less stressful. You can just get into it. Yeah. But yeah, I love it.
I've only been to London like once when I was like 20. One thing I did notice is that on the high and by, people aren't quite as polite. But when you're talking to them, personal conversations, people are the most polite people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Like you'll bump it, Donte, you'll walk and bump into somebody. They won't say shit to you.
Yeah.
But if you're like in a pub, they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. And they make conversation. It's just the strangest.
From being like New Yorkers to being Southern.
Like, real quick. It's super interesting. But I, that's a good choice.
I love it there.
It's a good choice. Music-wise, what's your favorite... What's an album that you can listen to from start to finish lately?
Trying to pick my favorite Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne is... I can listen to that for 10 hours straight.
What are your thoughts of Carter 3?
Human Being, probably.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Probably my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so it's such an interesting time in his life where he was putting out over 365 songs a year.
It's nuts.
To complete and put out over a song a day is absolutely insane.
That's what he was on everybody's song. That was nuts.
Yeah, it was. He just did so much work.
Yeah.
It's so... If you can pay attention to it, very articulate. And very poetic.
Absolutely.
And you have to, understand the metaphor that happens 10 seconds into the song when you're like 2 minutes into it. Then you get it.
Right.
It's just... I love that about his music.
Cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
His guest appearance on Solange's new album is nuts.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah. I'm so glad her album came out on a rainy day.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to like
sit down and listen to
it. It's a good listen. It's a good listen. I want to listen to it again. I've only listened to it once.
It's heavy too.
It is really heavy. A Seat at the Table is a heavy title.
It's heavy to start with. And you're like
looking
down the track list and you're like, don't touch my hair. And FUBU. And you're like, okay. All right. Okay.
And then the through line of Master P talking through. That's
him and Tina. Like their like interludes are just
all right. It's a good album. Cool.
What are your favorite trade shows to go to?
I would probably have to say Liberty.
Okay.
Yeah, like Liberty Fair is just because there's so many makers in there. The other ones are very geared towards selling the experience of the brands, which is cool.
Yeah, I love it.
But I like talking to the people that actually made the product. Yeah. I think it's really a really good experience.
Yeah, I like Liberty. I went to the one in New York a couple of years ago, and also Capsule. I get that same feel from Capsule. And then it's not just brands that they have in there as far as like streetwear or clothing specific. There are people that make sunglasses there. There are people that do hair care products, so you get a real different feel as going to some of the other trade shows or bigger trade shows, and that's what I like about that.
I dislike brands that are like national brands and do print like screen printing. Like I hate, and that's the other trade shows are just so full of brands that just pump out thousands of printed t-shirts without a message. It's just like sunset. Okay. I hate those. So.
I actually ran into Ronnie Fag when I went to Liberty. So.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like there's so many people walking around there, and like my younger self always thinks it's like a party because I'm like, oh, like we ran into 2 Chainz or T.I. while we're there.
Really?
You talk business, like everyone's there to sell things.
Exactly.
They have brands. And it's like it's a lot of work. At the end of the when we go to Vegas, we personally have like a little over 60 accounts in the store, which you're meeting with 60 different people.
Exactly.
Going through each one of them has at the bare minimum 80 pieces that are going to be in their booth. So you're looking at between 80 and 300 pieces for those people that you already set up with conversations with. Then you're also trying to find new brands. Stuff. And Vegas has 7 huge national trade shows at once, so there's like 10,000 brands there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's like insurmountable.
It is.
And then at night you also have to party with the reps and like go out to the weekend where we host
you got to do the social
stuff. You have to go because it's part of the industry.
Right.
So it's like
it's equal, if not more work as play.
So. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, you have to hold your liquor, but also be cool. It's like it's.
What's a brand that people wouldn't expect you to like that you really, really like. Because you know, some people are, you like whatever. What's a brand that you like that people wouldn't expect you to like?
Probably Zara is the one, because as much as I'm like cut and sew and like I hate mass produced things, I'm astounded by the way that their structure works and how quickly they get things to market.
Yeah.
Like, I do understand they copy a lot of people, but it's also they don't.
They do.
It's no whole bar. Like they say that, and, you know, they can offer you something.
I think they make really good jeans.
Yeah, like
they make really good
jeans.
jeans.
Yeah, they do.
There's not a lot of European fit things in the US, so
they throw me off. Like good brand. I went there one time. I was like, these jeans aren't gonna fit amazingly. I put them on. I was like, oh shit, this is it's a nice fit to this. It's cool, man.
It's nice. So did you have any like final words of encouragement or advice that you like to give out to people or somebody that's looking to open their own shop or start a brand?
I would just tell them to reach out, stop thinking you know what's going on, because you probably have no idea if you're not already in the industry. You're trying to break into an industry, you don't have the answers yet. So, you know, be comfortable. Like you came to the shop with Debonair and we've done a couple pop-up shops, you know, we've carried stuff like
we've done, you know,
it
a
takes
collab.
a while for like that collaboration t-shirt that we did that we like heat pressed live in store. I wear it at least twice a month.
Oh, cool.
It's probably one of my most worn pieces. Every time I travel I wear it because it's just like it says like ride over souls, not souls.
Yeah.
So, you know, ride over people and not the sneakers.
Right.
Care more about the people than the thing. And like it's just such a good message. But no, like at this point we've slowed down a little bit with our mentorship. Like, you know, in our first 2 years we helped 300 brands. Right now we've talked to a little under 400 local designers. And there's just so many pieces of the industry. So don't be headstrong about being stuck in one spot. Not everyone is the right person to own a brand. Being the face of a brand is very difficult, and being the face of the brand means you're managing it. You're not the designer. You're the influencer. Marc Jacobs doesn't design the things that Marc Jacobs sells. You know, like he is the face of it. Jeremy Scott gives the idea for the Adidas collection. He's not physically making it. You know, so you become the boss. You know, you don't become the worker. So if you're interested in being the worker, join a corporation that will let you design for them. It's a very different thing. Your name doesn't have to be on everything. You have to find like what is the most passionate piece of the industry that you're interested in, and then go that route rather than spinning your wheels because you think you need to make a giant t-shirt brand so you can work for Adidas someday. There's ways to work for Adidas, and that's not it. You know, so it's really figuring out the industry and ask people in the industry that are willing to help you.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people not to get discouraged because, like you said, working for Adidas, Adam Wexler, he said he was trying to get into Adidas for years, but that was his brand. That's where he wanted to work. So he kept applying, and then he finally ended up, you know, getting in there. And he's one of the bigger names at Adidas at this point. He handles a lot of the world stuff that they do. So I think that's, you know, important.
500 pairs of black on black NMDs that they just did that came in the suitcase.
You love NMDs.
Yes, NMDs. It's impossible to just get a pair. Like I try to go to the site, they're marked up so crazy. It's nuts. I need to find a hookup. I think I need to start using my resources. I have some friends that could, but I just want to get it the legit way. I want to go to the site, press +1, get one. No, that's not possible.
You know people that work at the corporate stores. That's the quickest way to go.
Right.
Cool.
They always have back doors.
Make some friends.
We don't do that.
Yeah, but thank you so much for coming. So just to let you know, to re-emphasize, we have a companion piece called Branded 10. We're gonna ask you to make a playlist of 10 songs. What you feeling right now? I'm hoping there's gonna be some Lil Wayne on there.
It's gonna be a little ratchet.
I love it.
Perfect. Yeah.
We need a little bit of that.
Deep Southern rap person. So
Okay.
we got some Andre, you got some Lil Wayne.
Cool. How you feel about chopped and screw music? Is that too? That's obscure.
I like
Fuck.
Paul Wall and Chameleonaire.
Yeah.
The like joint albums that they put together were incredible.
Yeah.
Like, when I was 15, I got a black Durango. I painted black again because it wasn't black enough. Like, I was really aggressive. I had 24-inch rims.
Oh, wow.
3 TVs and an Xbox, 4 kickers in the trunk. Like, I thought I was...
You pimped your own ride.
Yeah, I was destined to be like one of their groupies. So, yeah, Chopped and Screwed is amazing. People don't get it now.
Love Chopped and Screwed music. Actually, have recently listened to a Little Dragon Chopped and Screwed album. So good. Yeah, Chopped and Screwed. I'm glad you like that. That makes me so happy. So I talked to some people about Chopped and Screwed. They're like, get the fuck out of my face. Like, they don't like it, man. Yeah.
That makes me sad now. David Banner and people like that record. Like, I listen to their actual records in my home.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool.
Like, yeah, so it'll be like Amy Winehouse, and then I have Chingy on record. No one should own that. The Hotel remix on that. It's terrible. But...
Hey, you loved it when you got it, so that's the important part.
Right.
Stick with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been incredible.
Episode 3. I think that's a wrap. Any final words?
Nah, I'm overwhelmed with how great this turned out. I learned a lot. I'm soaking up a lot of game. I'm gonna listen to this again after it's over. Yeah.
So, appreciate everybody listening. Come back again next week. We should have, another good guest for you. I think we're on a good run right now.
Get out of here. A crazy run. That's some good weeks.
And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, whatever you like to listen to on. Give us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Email us at branded@debonairmaterial.com. We'll be sure to put our social media links in the description as well as the Branded 10 playlist. We appreciate y'all listening. Y'all have a good one.
All right. Peace.